Good morning. It's morning here. And it's beautiful. It's like the sun is shining and there's this cool breeze. I love that. But it was even cold. And last night, the wind was blowing so wildly. I mean, it was pounding even on my window. It was like boom, you know. And so I went outside in the backyard and I brought my lawn chairs in because I knew that they'd be picked up and flown away. You know, and now when I think about it, I think the next time that there's a windstorm like that I'll just stand outside and let it push me around a little bit, let it cleanse me, to hit me and cleanse right through me, right? The wind, sometimes it can be so treacherous. Other times it can be cleansing and blow things around, stir things up, you know? And sometimes it gets so violent that it can cause tornadoes that come in and destroy. And then we'll have to go back and rebuild, which is a really good analogy right now, isn't it? Where a tornado has ripped through the land to shake things up to the point where there's nothing left to do but to rebuild and to change, where it brings clarity of how fragile and vulnerable we actually are to this world and the things that God can do, because He is that powerful. Oftentimes, tornadoes are sent and they ravage innocent people that don't deserve to be hit by that great tornado. And yet, maybe it's about shaking them up so very much that as they're rebuilding, they can see that it had to be, you know, maybe in some ways, it had to be because everything around them was just built of cardboard boxes. It wasn't built on the structures and the foundations of truth to the point where we knew what was right and what was wrong. We didn't know what was going on around us, and so it had to be destroyed for us to rebuild. Now, I'm going to put my hand over my heart because I've learned some new things that have helped, do help to breathe in, to push the air out. And I imagine, do you remember that show, The Green Mile, where that sacred being, Mr. Coffey, John Coffey, was so sensitive and so loving, and how he could pull in those energies and pull and heal people, and then he would blow out that, I'm kind of getting goosebumps thinking about it, he would blow out that disease or whatever it was that was ailing a person, and he would blow it out, and all of that sickness he would just expel it, right? And I remember that actor, and I'm sad that he's gone because he really did have a very angelic being, didn't he? He really did have this glow about him. So as we put our hands over our hearts and we breathe in, fill up your lungs, then purse your lips and force the air out. And as you let that air out, remember the flies, those flies or that darkness that would just come, he would just release it. It would just be gone. So imagine that you're releasing all of the pain and sorrow and evil that people have brought to your life, that might have even taken the formation of a disease. I'm releasing it. When I feel negative energy hitting my sacral chakra, I know when it happens, I can tell. You know, I don't have to listen to anybody speak. It could just simply be a shift of my own understanding. Then all of a sudden, energetically, there's a response. It's almost like, the spiritual world is a real, well, it is. It's a real thing. We're all energy. Of course, it's a real thing. It is, and it cannot be denied because, and even religion teaches it. Of course it does, because we have these intense feelings. And, we need to be able to recognize these warnings and these intuitions, and mine is hyper acute right now. And hopefully it always will be from this point forward. But I am standing here in honor of my spirit team, my deceased ancestors, and my friends that have spiritual gifts that are teaching me so much, whose friendship has really touched my life, because when they speak the truth, it sets me free. When they speak my truth, and I hear them saying it, and I know it's exactly for me to hear it, because they're giving information that I know for a fact is true. And my my love and respect and my excitement for having had crossed paths with them, wow, that means something to me. And it's grown not only new love for these new friendships that have passed my way, but it's given me a renewed love and power in myself to recognize my strengths, the strengths I've always had. A spiritual part of myself that I've had to shut down because of religion, and it was just too scary for people to understand it. But I'm not alone. There's other people that have these gifts, and you never know. Maybe you've been in a situation where you've had to swallow that intuition, where you've had to not question things because somebody told you not to question them. That you shouldn't, no, don't say that. That's not true. And sometimes it can be a genuine concern from a parent, just trying to guide you to the best way they understand at that time. And maybe they mean well, but there's this place inside of you that no matter who tells you or tries to steer you, you still, and which I never understood, you still have the right to question it inside yourself. And maybe, and believe me, I don't think that anybody's taught me more than my own children. We go around thinking that we're raising them, but really they're raising us. My children have raised me. They've taught me things that nobody else could. Because that relationship is just so intense and so profound. It's such a gift that we can have children. And we really should take that calling incredibly seriously. I think more seriously than we ever have before. Because when you realize that child that you have given birth to is a complete individual from you, you are given this precious gift to raise and to nurture. But that child really doesn't belong to you. They belong to themselves in the end. They do. You're just trying, and you want very much to give them the resources to grow and flourish in the way that's best for their spirit, because each one of us are so very different. Each one of us are different. We don't know exactly when they're born who we're getting. We don't know who we're getting or what is inside of them. And for whatever reason, God has given that particular spirit to one of us. And it's up to us to be willing to be kind and considerate enough to realize that that is an individual and that they are not a personal belonging of the parent. They're not. They're not our personal belongings. These are divine individuals, completely independent, They need us first for their survival. And boy, that is a heavy obligation that should be taken with so much seriousness and soberness that even as I say this, I remember being a child mother myself, being a child mother, having come from a very toxic environment, an environment of domestic violence, where the children were not respected and that they were, in fact, considered possessions to be used and manipulated. Absolutely, without question. And, and who's to say, I mean, maybe that's how they were raised, as possessions, to be manipulated and used, and not to be given their true sovereignty to develop and become the person that they were meant to be. And there is a time, very much so, that if a child is doing something outrageously off balance, that we have to come and rein them in. Of course we do. And to set them straight, or to figure out what's going on and try to help them as best we can. Not everything can be completely explained away, right? We have to understand. And this world is throwing so much information at our kids that we are in peril. Our future is in peril simply because of what's being thrown at our children. I think we all as parents understand that fact. That we do need to protect them. And that, overstimulation can cause a lot of behaviors, undesirable behaviors from children that are not ready to receive as much as is being forced upon them. And heaven forbid that they're in an environment where adults are sexually abusing them. That is unacceptable. It alters their brain, their physical body, their understanding of a parent-child relationship, to understand what's appropriate from adults and what is not. It is extremely harmful. And so is physical abuse, of battering someone to knock them down a peg or two, to remind them that I'm the dad or I'm the mom, and you will obey. A domineering and forceful, unloving situation for those precious minds and hearts. Because these are the people that are going to be taking over the world later. And you don't want to be raising criminals now, do we? No, we do not. And I think the first part of that is what I just said, is that when these babies are born, that we do not own them. We don't. And also, later on in life, they get to choose for themselves. And there comes a time, no matter what's happened to them, and it's tough love too, that when you get of a certain age, then all of a sudden it's up to you to take the steering wheel of your life and to drive yourself where you're going to go. And because a lot of children have been raised in a suppressive environment, boy, the minute they hit 18, they go bananas, right? Yeah. They want to live. They get to make their own decisions. And a lot of times those decisions are completely outrageous. And maybe it's not true for everybody, but I think that there's a spirit, like even in colleges and high schools, that all of a sudden when you've come to this place where it's your rite of passage, that all of a sudden you can just go bananas. Wow, we graduated. We're adults. Wow. Could there ever be a time in a child's development where they need more adult supervision than that time? Probably not. They probably need more supervision at 18 than they do at 5, that's for sure. Sometimes they act like they're 5 when they turn 18. Or, and sometimes, you'd think that, there can be a mom that is kind and loving, but also fierce, okay? Imagine a mom as myself in a religion where it was very, very oppressed and very, religious to the point of an inability of real self-expression. I mean, yes, there's music and talents and things like that, but there's also this overall captivity involved with it. And in order to be accepted, I have gone through the motions of a faith like this. I have gone through the motions of a faith like this, doing the best I can to fit my square soul into a round hole, to please, to be accepted, to go along with a socially acceptable path that nobody could question, to be accepted and to feel loved. And even doing that, it wasn't enough. They still created a crazy story about me that wasn't at all the person that I actually am. It wasn't even close. They knew I went to the temple. They knew that I really did walk the path. I sent my sons on missions for the church, and yet they still came after me. Religious people who swore testimony of that very faith, living a lie while pretending to be this, perfect religious people, and yet feel like they have the right to come after an adult that knows that no longer aligns with them. Okay, that realizes that no matter how hard I have tried, I can see the discrepancies around me. I can see what was done to me. And it didn't even matter that I did exactly what I was expected to do with them. They still attacked me. They still, sought to harm me. So now when I place my hand over my heart, I'm taking those wounds and I'm doing my best to breathe them in, and those nasty flies that was coming out of the mouth of Mr. Coffee, gone away. They're flying away. We have inside of us a spirit that is sovereign. It can't be ruled by people, and it cannot be ruled by presidents and authorities. It can't. It is a sovereign spirit. It belongs to you. And it's we're all manipulated because we're here on planet Earth, right? We have to, stomp our feet. We feel the ground beneath our feet. We have to feel what is real and what is not. Because those foundations help us make decisions of safety. Am I standing on solid ground? Is this real? Can I touch it? Can I smell it? Can I taste it? Do my senses respond to it? And it's a pathway to trying to discern. It's like a map, what else do we have? We don't, right? Especially if we're not taught how to communicate with things beyond the 3D. We are walking in this 3D world and so overly stimulated by tangible, because if it's not tangible, then it's frightening, right? But there's some people that go after that. They go after the intangible, like, with the ghost stories. And yes, there are good and bad spirits, but there are definitely, for sure. And so you've got some people that are doing these ghost hunts, because they are privy, they understand that there is hauntings, they want to go, find out more about that. They spend a lot of time trying to prove the supernatural, the spirit world to all of us. Maybe it's in a frightening way. A lot of movies have been made over that frightening reality. And that there really are positive and negative forces out there in this universe of ours. It's a part of the structure of positive and negative, creating a force that holds matter together. Right? I am so grateful that I have been given permission to use my spiritual nature. That I no longer have to feel like just because I have gifts that can see beyond the 3D, that somehow makes me evil or bad, because that is one of the biggest lies that we've been told, is so that people will not be awakened to the spirits that they really actually are. And that they actually do have sovereign permission to use. And I'm not talking about witchcraft, okay? I'm not talking about creating negative scenarios for another person with this ability, which, obviously people are doing, to manipulate the outcome of situations, because there are people in high places that recognize the power of the spiritual sovereignty, right? And the thing is that we have let this negative spiritual practice go for so very long that it's putting good people in harm's way. Most of us recognize, I think, when we're really thinking about what we stand for as a human being, even in the 3D, what is tolerable and what is not. But if someone with a negative or low intention comes in with their spiritual prowess to delude, to lie, to entice normally decent people into committing crime, or committing, something that they know is spiritually incorrect, and somehow they can tell you it's in the name of God, or it's just the right thing to do to protect the blinders that they have placed on you. And you don't even recognize it when you're going along committing these crimes against another human being. And it doesn't even matter. For instance, if there is someone bad that's out there, and you're out there, wishing evil, sending evil, or you're painting this picture about anyone negatively and not minding your own business and creating the world for that spirit for yourself, you are being evil. Even the worst of the worst are allowed a fair trial, due process in a court of law, no matter what they've done. Too many people are being blamed for crimes that they haven't committed. What if that happened to you? You should not want to stand. Would you really want to do that? Put somebody who is not guilty of any crime, make them the stooge, the scapegoat to let really negative, bad people get away with their crime? What if that happened to you? I want you to really stop for a minute and think about that. You people that create insidious, evil plots to tell the public or the people within your communities, even the world, this is a bad guy. We're good because we're catching him. We're honorable. We're doing our jobs because we're attacking him. And we don't know the whole story, do we? We only know what we're being told. It is our duty individually to make sure that we understand what's going on before we automatically just go along with any kind of scenario, because it makes us feel bigger, stronger, more powerful, and better. We're doing our jobs. We're kicking butt and we're taking prisoners until they get a lot of us innocent people involved. And we're going down for crimes we never committed. Now, before you decide to jump on the bandwagon, you owe it to yourselves to get the facts, and to realize without a shadow of a doubt that everyone, good or bad, like them or not, is allowed, at least in this country, due process in front of a fair judge. That fabricated evidence and placing somebody at a crime scene is actually detected in an actual tangible way, not fabricated evidence, not going in there stealing their hairbrush and planting them at a crime scene, because people are doing that to frame the wrong people. Do you understand that we understand? We understand. Now I'm asking you to be responsible enough and ask yourself again, really think about this, okay? I'm going to pretend to be you, and this is how it goes. I knew that person. I don't think they would do that. No, they wouldn't do that. No. Gosh, what they're doing to her is unfair. This is our country. What if that happened to me? If she doesn't have her civil rights, maybe they're going to take away mine. If they're willing to lie and make this great big thing about her, man. And then you get scared. You wonder, well, if I don't go along with so-and-so, they could come after me. Then what? Or, oops, I did something really bad and now I'm going to be exposed. So now I got to say more lies to cover up what I did because I believed the wrong person, or I went along with something because they offered me something, fame, fortune, or something I wanted, and God and religion and everything that I stand for as a person just went out the window. And maybe it was just this one little thing, but gosh, and then all of a sudden it snowballs into this great big thing. And now we're in this great big fiasco, this big avalanche, these big, boulders are falling down the hill, and I'm running to try to get away from whatever it is I've done. Because I forgot God and I went along with somebody's persuasion, and I forgot to go pray about it or to search my soul and say, is that going to work? Is this good? Or using our compassion wrongly for people that do not deserve that compassion at all. These discrepancies are happening. There are people that are persuading us every day. Even I stand here to persuade you, but I'm not persuading you to do anything but search yourself and to ask yourself some really critical questions. Are you willing to be the lamb that goes to the slaughter? Would you stand in my shoes? Would you? Would you be the lamb that goes to the slaughter when you know that you're innocent of wrongdoing? When you know, and they do too, that you're innocent. They knew from the start that that person's innocent. Oh, they knew that. Of course they did. They were just jealous. They wanted what she had. And so they came up with this great big plan. They turned people against her. They got people to jump on the bandwagon, and they were led down to hell. Remember that show? Like, what is it called? Led down to hell. And they didn't even have to try very hard. You guys just okay, here's the hell hole. Please jump in. Right? You better watch, because what's going on around you, a lot's happening behind the scenes that we don't know, and it takes prayer and understanding. Okay, so when things are happening that we can't control, that are out of our hands, what do? I get on my knees and I genuinely ask my Creator, God the Father, and His Son Jesus Christ. That's who I speak to, because until I know otherwise, that's how I believe. And maybe Jesus is something more than what we perceive of Him to be. I don't know. I get a tingle. He's more than we perceive of Him to be. And so when I said eons ago that when you set your religion aside and you make that Savior or God, as you understand him, the primary source for your information, that he and you're not walking alone. You're walking with him with you constantly in everything you do. And doesn't mean you're going to be perfect and that you're always going to make the right choices, right? Because he gives us free agency to choose what we want to choose. He really does. But I know that people that have been bullied and oppressed and have lived their lives in a way where they've been pounded on so much, they either turn to crime or they live with God constantly. I'm calling those that went to crime to go back and start praying, because you have an innate ability that you don't even understand. God knows what you've been through. He knows what you've been through. And hopefully you haven't gone so far as to harm a child or hurt somebody. But it's time, but even if you have, especially you need to get down on your knees and cry and beg your guts out to the Most High God for what you've done. To have the maturity and the integrity to meet your actions head on, no matter what they are. To align yourself with that God that created you. And believe me, he's of love. He's not of darkness. He's of a bright light. He's not of darkness. And I know that each and every one of us knows what that feels like. We know the difference of what that feels like. And that when we are being confused and attacked by darkness, to be able to recognize that and to pray ourselves out of it. And not be blind and just go along with whatever it's told to us, that we were willing to look beyond what it seems to be. To get on our knees and ask God with real integrity, with real intent, as you've been taught to do, what is right and what is wrong. And that it is okay to have intuition, to have a deep intuition. And I promise you, if you pray to have more intuition and more personal revelation, you will. And it's not just certain people that get to have it. We all are born with that. We were all told, and we believe that we all have the light of Christ within us. We have the light of God, but we also have evil influences too. And it is a matter of choice. And you do have this ability to receive personal revelation from your Creator at any time, if you want to. But if you're out there wanting to harm somebody, not only are you not going to have personal intuition, not only is your third eye blocked, maybe you can pick up vibrations from the devil or from Satan or whoever you want to call him. But I promise you, you are not following Jesus Christ or your Creator if you're out there harming anyone, and I don't care if he really is a criminal, if you're out there attacking someone, now it's different than being a victim and reporting an actual crime. But when you're wasting the police's time and you're calling to create false scenarios to not only waste the police's time, but to put a person into harm's way, do you realize how serious that actually is? If you are somebody that has taken an oath, then you take an oath and you swear to defend and protect the people in your community. You better damn well believe that your feet should be held to the fire, especially you. Because you're holding a mantle of goodness, of light, not darkness. Police supposed to be light, not darkness. And how are the police going to maintain their positions and their sovereignty as far as their legal right to defend and protect us if they've got bad actors out there making police look like they're corrupt? All of them, right? It isn't fair. And it isn't fair to the judges either, the ones that do their jobs, to have corrupt judges that can deliberately use their power to harm a person, to frame a person, to help frame a person, or to not execute the right to go imprison a person that is not obeying the statutes or whatever the judge has said, okay, this is what you have to do. You better damn well go do it, and not just waffle around and say, well, we didn't feel like doing what you said, Judge. Not at all. So we don't think that we're going to do that. And the judge going like, well, darn, are you kidding? The judges of this land are supposed to be the ones in power, as far as making sure the light, the good is followed, that, society doesn't, run amok into chaos. And yet we are. And you might walk outside and it seems like everything's normal, but I assure you, if we don't maintain civil protection in an honorable way, and we can't tell the good guys from the bad, and believe me, that's happening right before your eyes. If we don't have a clear understanding of who the good guys are and who the bad guys are that are supposed to be protecting us, then we will have no respect for any of these honorable institutions ever again, right? And the standard by which we hold these people that we have elected, some of them even elected, we have elected and put them in a position to protect us, and we expect them to do their jobs and not to overspend and not to take advantage. And yet, as human beings, as people in society and the world, we continually just allow them to do it. And thinking, well, there's really nothing that we can do. And then here we are impotent. Now we're impotent. The police are impotent. The judges are impotent. We are stewing. We are frogs stewing in a pot. And the pot is getting hotter. And pretty soon we'll be boiling. We need to have clear and concise ideas of who is on the right and who is on the wrong. And it starts in our communities by knowing who our leaders are. These people that we have elected, these police, and the higher they get, the more convoluted it kind of is, because we really don't know, because they've got connections up here. The police are down here with us, and these guys are in the middle, and we're still counting on these people. FBI, Internal Affairs. The Internal Affairs are there to make sure that the police and the FBI are doing their jobs. That's what they're there for. And we need to have clear and concise understanding of who these people actually are. Secret Service should not be quite so secret. We need to know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. And yes, there's some really dangerous scenarios and dangerous people in this world. Things that we really don't need to know. That we aren't in that position to go fight before it comes to the forefront, right? That have to go do that job. We pray to the Lord above that you're out there defending your country in a proper way, man. We do. Because sooner or later, the truth always rises. Like cream, it rises to the top. I am standing for the Constitution of the United States of America, because without that tool, without that document, and know it, we all can go down to the Senate floor. We can all decide how that needs to change as we grow and develop as a nation, as a world of technology, how those protections should be changed and enhanced, some thrown out, some added. This isn't a situation where we can't modify as needed, okay? Because of that, we don't need to throw the Constitution away. No, that is the only thing we the people have for our protection. And I want to say another thing too. You really need to protect your genealogy. Fiercely. Be very careful about that. The President of the United States and that administration and government as a whole has no right to steal, take, hinder, stop, block a will and a testament written in good faith by an ancestor. They have no right to steal and do insurance or life insurance fraud themselves when they say that the FBI is out there trying to crack down on life insurance fraud. They would be implicating themselves, if they even hesitate to hold back will testaments, ancestral inheritances from you. And so maybe it's time that everybody do their genealogy. This government of ours has no right to rob you of your inheritance. They don't. They don't have the right to do that. And they know they don't. And they better not. Now, I think that it's really important that we all look for this ancestral wealth within our own family. Even when they came over from England to the United States of America. This old money, because all of us, believe me, all of us came from the East. That's where we started. The South, the East. Clear down from, I don't know if Florida was so much a part of it at the time, but I think it's from Alabama clear on up to New York City. We deserve integrity from our leaders. We do. And you need to, well, it's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what you need to do. But I'll tell you what I'm doing. I am staying connected to the God that created me. I'm listening with not just my ears, but with my spiritual ears, with my intuition, with what Spirit is telling me, absolutely telling me. I want to tell you something that I know that there's many of you that would understand. In the faith that I was in, there's a special blessing. This blessing is called a patriarchal blessing. There's a vision. There was a child, I had a vision as a child about that. Maybe I'll revisit that vision someday. But for whatever reason, you have to be 15, 16 years old, usually, typically, to get a patriarchal blessing. And when you get this patriarchal blessing, you fast for it, right? You fast. I was in my 30s. My children were young. My babies were young. Around the time that you guys all said I was so evil, right? I was prepared and fasting for my patriarchal blessing. And this blessing, in a very real way, is almost like having a psychic, really, tell you, read your cards. There's no cards involved. They place their hands upon your head with a power that they call the priesthood, which is, in its own description, priesthood, a form of priestwitch, a power of divinity that I know you all understand, that are in the LDS faith. The priesthood from the most divine. Now tell me that this is not a spiritual religion. Think about it. Everything about it. Except that they tell you, oh, don't read cards, don't be spiritualists. And yet they have this priesthood that sets them apart from every other religion, and they put their hands upon your head. And with their divine authority from the Melchizedek priesthood, put their hands on your head. And by the power of Jesus Christ, give you a blessing of sheer wisdom from the universe about who you are as an individual and what your life is intended to be if you live close to the faith. They don't really say close to him. It's all about the religion, okay? Now, some of these men I know, and I can testify, love God. They love God and they know him. Okay? Some of them, in fact, you can energetically tell who's got the juice and who doesn't. Okay? So I'm in Oregon at this time. My kids are young. I am married to Patrick at the time, who passed away along eons later, right? I really did prepare myself with integrity. I fasted and I prayed and I asked for wisdom. There were things going on in my house at the time that I wasn't aware of. There was some things that was going on in my marriage that were really hard. And I really needed God to talk to me so much. And I was genuine. So when I finally went to this patriarch who was going to put his hands upon my head and ask in the name of Jesus Christ to be the conduit between him and me, to tell this dear sister what she needs to hear. Before he did this, before he laid his hands upon my head to give me that sacred blessing, he asked me to get on my knees and to ask Heavenly Father myself to please use this patriarch, this servant of God, to tell me what I needed to hear. And so both of us, we kneeled down on the floor in his office. And the very moment that my knees hit the floor, all of a sudden, I was seeing sparkling. It was like all of a sudden something came around me as I was saying my prayer, kneeling on the floor. And it was sparkling. It was like I was in outer space. It was like really like I was floating in space. And God said to me, "You are not who you think you are." And the veil lifted. And I realized that, like, in a very profound way. I mean, it was almost like I was looking at my spirit being was completely different than this vessel, than who I think I am. And so you can take that on a broader scale, is that none of us are who we think we are. But no, it was, you are not who you think you are. And all I could say, my voice, like, I couldn't even say the prayer. I said, Father, Father. All I could say was, Father, Father. And I knew that there is a Father in heaven who knows who I really am. He knows who I really am. I don't remember anything else about that whole day. I know that I sat in the chair and that he did place his hands upon my head. But I couldn't listen to him. All I could listen to was the sound of God's voice and that message that he said to me. I tried to listen, but I couldn't. My mind just kept going back to what he told me personally when my knees were on that floor. I'm not who I think I am. So there is one thing, only one thing that I remembered, was that he told me that I had been given the gift of circumspect, that I was able to see what was going on around me. He did say that. It's on my patriarchal blessing. I'm sure the church can go back and pull that up and read it. That I had been given the gift of circumspect. And that is correct. That's correct. I left about 6 weeks later. You know, they send you, they record it, and then somebody types it out, right? And there were some things that were said that, I didn't remember it all, but it was very confusing. Because at that time, about 2 months later, I found out that my husband was molesting my daughter. And before I got that patriarchal blessing, I knew, oh boy, did I ever know that something was wrong. And the way that I found out was that I was at work. I was working for Intel in Hillsboro. And I had a cold. And the first night I was working graveyards. I had worked for the accounting, but I switched after I had Hayden because I wanted to breastfeed him. And it just worked out better for me to do the shift of work. So I switched over to the technical portion and learned how to work on motherboards. You know, I learned SMT and through hole mount, and I got some new skills, right? But there were these 2 nights. The first night, I went to the bathroom, and God told me, and this is not the first time, believe me, where I could hear God tell me, or angels at this time tell me, go home, go home. And I was tired and at work, and I just, you only get like a half an hour break, and it would have been hard for me not to get back on time, So the first night I didn't go. The second time, go home. Go home. So I did. I want to protect my daughter's privacy. Yet when I walked into my home, and I had recently had a baby, okay? I walked into my home, and my young daughter, that was 8 years old at the time, and it was like 2 or so in the morning on a school night, was on the couch with my husband, and his body was wrapped around her like they were lovers. And when I walked in the door, he jumped up, completely startled, goes to the washing machine, starts putting clothes in that washing machine. And I'm looking at him. And I won't say her name, why is she out of bed? Why is she awake? What's going on? And it just I knew. And I looked at him and I said, if you have laid one finger on that child, I will prosecute you till the day I die. Now, I was not in the position at that point to recognize my gifts to be as powerful as they actually are. There's always, until you really are awakened to yourself, you doubt your gifts, right? But I can tell you more at a different time of other things that occurred. But because I was the primary breadwinner, my obligation was to my child, but feeling like, oh, I got to get back to work, feeling interfering, I'm sure, and not being sure of the alarm that was going off inside of me. I sent her to bed. I said these things to him. And I went back to work. And my mind was racing. I had been taking my daughter to a PhD psychologist because I had noticed for a very long time that she wasn't able to really communicate with me. And she wouldn't look me in the eye. There was just something off. She wasn't, and she was behaving even more she was young, but she was behaving even more childlike than what I felt developmentally that she should have been. And I had been taking her to a PhD psychologist, and it was really odd. Because even when it wasn't convenient, my husband of the time would come. He'd have to be there. He wouldn't want to go and let her go by himself. No. He had to be there in this meeting, which made it really hard for Chris. Well, I won't even say her name. Would make it very hard for her to be able to feel comfortable and to open up to this doctor, that he would be there. And we were all trying to figure it out. What's going on with this child? And we'd been seeing her for a while. I was trying to help my daughter, not knowing the absolute nightmare that I was about to face. And so when I received this patriarchal blessing, it said, and it hurt me, rekindle the relationship in your marriage. Are you kidding? Right? And who knows why? I was going to say something, but it just you have no idea. Even then, how the veil was so thin. There's more to say surrounding this. But there is never a time as parents that our Father in heaven and our Savior and angels are not there to assist you. These people that have come after me for these very gifts profess these things in their doctrine. How could they tell us not to believe that we have psychic gifts and gifts of intuition when we know very well that we have been promised spiritual intervention from the God that creates us, and it does not take being a member of this church to receive them. I promise you. I want to protect some anonymity of myself and people that are involved, but I know that without naming names, that even for my own healing, that I can come back and tell you what happened. But I promise you this. There is never a time, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter how perfect or imperfect that you are, that you cannot get on your knees and pray to your Creator and ask Him for real insight of what is true and what is not in this world. I promise you that. And I do say these things to you right now. In the name of the Most High God, and in the name of Jesus Christ, I do, so say it. Amen.